You reach 17 years old when you realize your entire life has been leading toward a single moment of violence that will decide whether your civilization survives or burns. The year is 1646, and you standing in the courtyard of Olesko Castle, watching smoke rise from villages on the horizon, black columns against the dawn sky, like funeral pyres for a world that is dying one settlement at a time. Your name is John Sobieski, and you don't know it yet, but in exactly 37 years, you will lead the largest cavalry charge in human history to save Christian Europe from total annihilation. Right now, though, you're just a boy watching the Ottoman Empire devour everything you've ever known, and the weight of your grandfather's blood spilled fighting these same Turkish forces at the Battle of Socorro pulses through your veins with a purpose that hasn't revealed itself yet. The empire approaching from the east isn't just another conquering force. It's a machine that's perfected the industrialization of human suffering itself. By the time you're old enough to understand what you're seeing, the Ottoman Empire has already consumed 15 million square kilometers of territory stretching from the gates of Vienna to the deserts of Yemen, from the Crimean Peninsula to the shores of North Africa. They ended the thousand-year Byzantine Empire, turned the Mediterranean into their personal domain, and developed a system of conquest so brutally efficient it makes modern warfare seem almost merciful by comparison. Their military operates with terrifying precision. The Janissary Corps, elite soldiers who were stolen as children from Christian families and converted through methods that destroy everything they once were. The Sipahi cavalry, masters of mounted warfare, who can loose arrows with deadly accuracy while riding at full gallop. Artillery units that reduce medieval fortifications to rubble in hours instead of months. But it's not their military strength alone that makes them unstoppable. It's the systematic way they weaponize human misery as policy, as strategy, as something calculated and deliberate. When Ottoman forces break through enemy defenses, what follows isn't chaos, it's orchestrated devastation designed to break the spirit of entire civilizations. The Devshirme system harvests Christian boys like crops, converting them into the very weapons used to destroy their own people. The slave markets of Constantinople process hundreds of thousands of captured Europeans, their humanity reduced to line items in ledgers that treat suffering as a commercial enterprise. Entire regions are depopulated, not through warfare, but through the systematic harvesting of human resources. And you watch it happen from your castle walls, knowing that one day it will be your turn to either stop it or die trying. Your father, Jacob, commands Polish forces against Ottoman raiders. Your mother, Teofilia, descends from Grand Hetman Żółkiewski, who fell fighting Turkish armies in 1620. You grow up hearing stories that would destroy modern audiences, villages vanishing overnight into slave caravans, Christian children torn from their families and transformed into Islamic warriors through psychological conditioning that erases their very souls. Women and girls processed through markets like livestock, their names forgotten as completely as if they never existed at all. But you don't just hear these stories, you live through them. At 14, you fight in the Khmelnytsky uprising, watching Cossack allies turn against Polish forces with Ottoman backing, and you see firsthand how the Turkish Empire doesn't just conquer territory. They engineer civil wars that tear apart their enemies from within. By 18, you're fighting Swedish invaders during the catastrophic period known as the Deluge, when foreign armies carve up Polish territory while the Ottomans wait patiently in the east, knowing that a divided Europe can never resist their advance. The boy who once played in castle courtyards now leads cavalry charges against overwhelming odds, and every battle teaches you something new about how empires fall and how they might be saved. Then comes 1653, when you volunteer as a hostage in the Crimean Tatar capital of Bakhchisarai, and what you discover there transforms you from a soldier into something far more dangerous, a weapon forged specifically to destroy the most powerful empire on earth. The months you spend in Crimean captivity aren't diplomatic courtesy. They're intelligence gathering that borders on espionage. And what you witness in those slave markets will fuel nightmares for the rest of your life. You study Turkish and Tatar languages while observing the bureaucratic efficiency of human trafficking operations. You memorize Ottoman military tactics while watching breeding programs that treat human beings like livestock. You see the systematic destruction of Christian identity that transforms conquered populations into willing servants of Islamic expansion, and somewhere in your mind, a plan begins forming, a terrible understanding of how this machine might finally be broken. The young man who returns from Crimean captivity isn't the same boy who left Olesko Castle. You're a loaded weapon now, aimed at the heart of an empire that's never known defeat, and you spend the next 3 decades preparing for one perfect moment when everything you've learned can be unleashed. If you recaptivated by stories of ordinary people thrust into extraordinary moments that change the course of history, subscribe now, because what happens next is the darkest and most triumphant chapter in European military history, and you won't want to miss how this story ends. By 1683, the moment you've been preparing for your entire life finally arrives with the force of inevitability itself. Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa assembles 150,000 of the most experienced soldiers in the world and marches them toward Vienna with the intention of conquering Christian Europe once and for all. The Holy Roman Emperor Leopold flees his own capital. The siege begins with Ottoman cannons shaking the city walls, while engineers dig tunnels beneath the foundations. And inside Vienna, S-walls, 15,000 defenders face an empire that S never failed to take what it wants. The systematic brutality you witnessed in Crimean slave markets is about to be inflicted on the heart of European civilization, and only you understand both their methods and their weaknesses well enough to stop it. On September 11th, the combined Christian army takes position on the heights of Kallenberg, overlooking Vienna and the massive Ottoman encampment that surrounds it like a dark sea. 76,000 European soldiers prepare to face 150,000 battle-hardened Turkish warriors in what everyone understands will be the decisive battle for the future of the continent. The next morning, September 12th, 1683, you raise your lance and lead 18,000 winged hussars in the largest cavalry charge in human history. Their feathered wings create a wall of terror that crashes into Ottoman lines with the force of divine judgment itself, and the systematic brutality that defined Ottoman expansion for 2 centuries breaks like ocean waves against Polish steel. The empire that turned human suffering into industrial resource discovers what happens when their victims finally unite under leadership that understands both their methods and their weaknesses. The slave markets of Constantinople receive no new Christian captives from this campaign. Vienna is saved, Europe endures, and the Ottoman tide that once seemed unstoppable begins its long retreat back toward the gates of Asia, all because one man spent his entire life preparing for 30 minutes of perfect violence that changed the course of human civilization. The boy from the castle courtyard who once watched smoke rise from burning villages had finally fulfilled the destiny his grandfather's blood purchased with sacrifice, and Christian Europe would survive to see another dawn. What do you think drives a person to dedicate their entire life to a single moment like this? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, because this story raises questions about fate, sacrifice, and whether one person really can change the course of history when everything seems lost.